Hey guys and gals, Effie here. Today we are going to talk about Willie Handler's Deep into the Weeds. This book releases on May 6th, 2022, so it's up and coming or soon to be released. So if you're looking to check that out, of course I'll put all the links down below. In the vein of full disclosure, I did receive an advanced reader copy of this book in order to review it. I have not been compensated in any way or paid in any way. This is just something that I follow Willie on Twitter, and he happened to be looking for ARC readers, so I volunteered myself. If you like book reviews or you like bookish related content, definitely hit the like and subscribe button. It really does help me out, and I have lots of kitty help, so there's going to be a lot of jacktail today. Deep into the Weeds is about a Canadian dairy farmer who is struggling with some economic changes brought about by a deal that the Canadian government made with the American government. So that's causing some economic impact on his farm. They've been in the red for a while, they're potentially going to lose the farm, and he is propositioned by a relative, a cousin or a brother-in-law or something like that, who also happens to be a cop, that he should change over from dairy production to marijuana production, which is legal in Canada. So Mac really resists transitioning the dairy farm into anything but a dairy farm. A lot of that's due to the family heritage that's associated with that, and a lot of that's due to the stigma that's still attached to growing, selling, being in any way involved with marijuana production in Canada. Even though it's legal, that doesn't mean that people are okay with it. Eventually, the bank calls Mac's loan, and he's going to lose his farm. So he doesn't really have much of a choice. He can either lose his farm with the bank reclaiming it and then selling it off, or he can go into marijuana production. He does some interviews, he finds a company that he can stomach doing business with, and he sells off his cattle. And everything just sort of goes downhill from there. Mac does everything he needs to in order to set up the greenhouses, learn how to appropriately cultivate and care for his crops. And then after taking all that care and putting in all that effort and running all that risk and coming so close to losing something that is so important to him, he just kind of lazes it away. When eventually the government agents do come to inspect, which he knows they're going to, of course they find shortages. So after they lose a bunch of product to the cow, which the inspectors find a little dubious, the next month there's a break-in and a bunch of their plants get stolen. And it's just sort of one thing after another that are sort of pushing Mac towards financial ruin. So he sort of gets into an illegal deal with some drug dealers in America, just across the border in, I think it's Michigan. Which, okay, that tracks, that makes a little sense. I can understand someone becoming so desperate not to lose what they feel like is their family, because the family farm is an extension of the family. I can see somebody being desperate enough that they might sort of woo illegal activity, if you will. But when it became obvious that the people he was talking to were really dangerous, rather than back off like any sensible person and go home and figure it out in a legal way, Mac goes into business with a couple of criminals. And then his transition from salt of the earth, law-abiding citizen to I'm doing all this crazy illegal stuff just to make ends meet, even though he's literally swimming in cash. He has so much cash he doesn't know what to do with it and has to go into deals with a money launderer. The transition between that and all of the criminal activity he gets himself involved in it's very, very fast. The book relays that this is all happening over the course of a few months, but again, that feels really fast for somebody to transition from a deeply held belief system and just abandon their morals and their values in favor of something else. In the second half of the book, Mac gets sort of a wake-up call. His wife is threatening to leave him, and he doesn't ever really react to it. He just kind of waves her off and says, okay, fine, do what you gotta do. So this woman he spent most of his adult life with, who he's, run his farm with, raised his daughter with, is leaving him because he won't let go of this illegal activity, which he doesn't need to do anymore because they're flush with cash. And he just kind of shrugs her off. I found that to be a little odd and a little jarring. The difference between Mac's expected reaction to things and the way he actually reacted to things kind of threw me for a loop a few times. I certainly found the first half of the book more enjoyable than the second half. I was struggling so much with Mac and his wife's relationship and why it felt so strange to me. And eventually, by chapter 27, I realized that it was because Meryl was reading like a prop. She didn't feel like a real character. She was just kind of one note. She wasn't a real character. She wasn't really fleshed out. She didn't really have much of a personality. And I started kind of thinking about the other characters in the book and realized you only really get personality from Mac, the main character, and his dirty cop brother-in-law, Ferg. So then I started thinking, well, why might that be? And it occurred to me like, oh, this is a book written by a humorist. This is a book written by a satirist. Willie's a jokester. He's a comedian. The book may not be intended to be anything deep and meaningful. Maybe it's just meant to be an adventurous romp as you follow one guy's descent into criminal activity and ruin. And once I accepted that, I started enjoying it a lot more. One of the things that bothered me about Breaking Bad was that Walter White, who was not a criminal, was participating in all this criminal activity, and he somehow never got caught. No matter how much evidence piled up, and no matter how close the cops got to figuring out that he was the bad guy, he never really got caught. I didn't finish that show, so he may have in the end, but it was like 8 seasons where, reasonably in season 2 he should have been in handcuffs and he just wasn't. That is not what happens in Deep Into the Weeds. The bad guys get their comeuppance. The ending is very satisfying because it is a logical ending. The book ends the way that it needs to end. And so I really appreciated that. It was a bold ending, and it's not something that most writers are willing to do to end a book the way that Willie ended his. If you're looking for a quick read over a weekend that covers a guy just sort of willfully ruining his own life, it might be a book that you like. I thought it was okay. It's not really my style of book. I tend to prefer more deep character analysis and things that really impact me emotionally. And this isn't intended to be that, so don't be looking for that from this book. But if you're looking for something light and easy to read and something quick and enjoyable, you might want to check it out. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And of course, if you like the way that I present information, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below. You can find all of my social media contacts in the description. And of course, if you want to keep up with me and the progress I'm making on my current novel, you can do that at effywritesbooks.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have an excellent day, and I'll see you next time.